What if I told you that some of the most iconic states in America are on the brink of collapse? We're talking about mass evacuations, failing economies, and entire communities left in ruins. And it's happening faster than anyone expected. From California's wildfires destroying entire towns to once thriving industrial powerhouses like Illinois and Michigan turning into ghost states. Is your state next? Before you think, that could never happen where I live, think again. These 10 states are collapsing right before our eyes, and the reasons might shock you. Stay with us as we break down the 10 fastest collapsing states in America and why they may never recover. Number 10, California. California, a state that once represented the ultimate symbol of the American dream. For decades, it was the land of opportunity, where people flocked for booming industries, perfect weather, and a high quality of life. But in 2025, the picture looks shockingly different. The Golden State is now witnessing an unprecedented mass exodus, with hundreds of thousands of residents packing up and leaving. What's driving this sudden departure? Let's start with the housing crisis. California has some of the highest home prices in the country, particularly in major cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles. For many, homeownership has become nearly impossible, with median home prices soaring well beyond the reach of middle-class families. Even renting is unsustainable, with people paying more than half of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. This has led to a significant outflow of residents who are seeking more affordable living conditions in states like Texas, Nevada, and Arizona. But it's not just the cost of living. California is also grappling with an increasingly dangerous fire season. In 2025, wildfires are not just a seasonal occurrence, they've become a year-round threat. Whole communities are being displaced by these fires, and the state's infrastructure is struggling to keep up with the damage. And then there's the tech industry, the backbone of California's economy. Once the undisputed tech capital of the world, Silicon Valley has seen an exodus of companies and workers. Major tech firms like Oracle, Tesla, and Hewlett-Packard have already moved their headquarters to more business-friendly states. With remote work becoming the norm, there's no longer a strong incentive for tech workers to stay in California, where the cost of living far outweighs the benefits. So, what does the future hold for California? Can it bounce back from this growing crisis? Or are we witnessing the beginning of a long-term decline? Only time will tell, but one thing is for sure. The California of 2025 is not the California we once knew. Number 9, Illinois. Illinois, the once proud industrial powerhouse of the Midwest, is now teetering on the edge of collapse. The land of Lincoln has seen its fortunes decline over the past decade, and in 2025, the situation has only worsened. Illinois is grappling with a perfect storm of financial crises, population loss, and a deteriorating quality of life. So, how did we get here? Let's start with the state's crippling debt. Illinois has one of the worst fiscal situations in the country, with unfunded pension liabilities and a staggering state deficit that has ballooned out of control. In 2025, this debt crisis is no longer a future problem, it's a present reality. The state government has been forced to make deep cuts to essential services like education, healthcare, and public safety, leaving residents frustrated and disillusioned. But it's not just the finances. Illinois has been bleeding people for years. Between 2010 and 2020, the state lost over 200,000 residents, and that trend has only accelerated. In 2025, Illinois is among the top states in the country for outmigration. People are leaving for states with lower taxes, better job opportunities, and a more stable quality of life. For many, the high property taxes in Illinois are simply unsustainable, especially when combined with a lack of economic growth. And then there's Chicago, the state's economic engine. Once a thriving hub of industry and innovation, Chicago is now facing a crisis of its own. The city's public school system is struggling, crime rates are rising, and major corporations are either downsizing or relocating. The once vibrant downtown area is now dotted with empty office buildings as more companies shift to remote work or move their headquarters elsewhere. Illinois is at a crossroads. Can it turn things around before it's too late? Or will it continue to lose people, jobs, and its identity as one of the nation's great states? The clock is ticking, and the future of Illinois hangs in the balance. Number 8. New York. New York, once the beating heart of America's economy, culture, and innovation, is now facing a collapse no one could have predicted. In 2025, the Empire State is grappling with a series of crises that are driving residents out in droves. From sky-high taxes to a shrinking population, New York is becoming a state that, for many, is simply too expensive to call home. One of the biggest issues New Yorkers face is the cost of living. New York City, in particular, is infamous for its exorbitantly high rents and real estate prices. While this has always been a challenge, 2025 has seen the situation reach a breaking point. With inflation driving up the cost of basic goods and services, even middle-class families are finding it hard to make ends meet. And it's not just New York City. Upstate communities that once thrived on manufacturing are struggling to attract new businesses and residents, leading to a growing economic divide within the state. Then there's the issue of taxes. New York has some of the highest state and local taxes in the country, and in 2025, those taxes have only increased as the state tries to balance its budget. For many residents, especially retirees and small business owners, these taxes are the final straw. People are leaving for states like Florida and Texas, where they can keep more of their hard-earned money. And let's not forget about the impact of remote work. The COVID-19 pandemic fundamentally changed the way we work, and in 2025, many companies have permanently adopted remote or hybrid models. This has left New York City's commercial real estate market in shambles, with office buildings sitting half empty and businesses struggling to justify the high cost of operating in the city. New York is at a turning point. Will it continue to hemorrhage residents and businesses, or can it find a way to reinvent itself in a post-pandemic world? Only time will tell, but the challenges ahead are immense. Number 7. Louisiana. Louisiana, a state known for its rich culture, history, and natural beauty, is facing a crisis that threatens its very survival. In 2025, Louisiana is one of the fastest collapsing states in the country, and the reasons are as complex as they are devastating. Let's start with climate change. Louisiana has always been vulnerable to hurricanes and flooding, but in recent years, the situation has become far more severe. Rising sea levels and stronger storms are wreaking havoc on the state's coastal communities. In 2025, many areas that were once thriving are now underwater, displacing thousands of residents and causing billions of dollars in damage. But it's not just natural disasters. Louisiana's economy is heavily reliant on the oil and gas industry, and in 2025, that industry is facing a major downturn. With the global shift toward renewable energy, demand for oil has plummeted, leaving Louisiana's economy in a precarious position. Thousands of jobs have been lost, and the state has struggled to diversify its economy. The result? A mass exodus of residents looking for better opportunities elsewhere. Louisiana's population is shrinking, and the people who are leaving are often the young and educated, those who are essential for driving future growth. This brain drain is making it harder for the state to recover, as it loses the very talent it needs to rebuild and innovate. And then there's the issue of infrastructure. Louisiana's roads, bridges, and levees are in desperate need of repair, but the state simply doesn't have the resources to address these problems. In 2025, Louisiana's infrastructure is crumbling, making it even harder for the state to attract new businesses and residents. Louisiana is facing an uphill battle. Can it adapt to the challenges of climate change and a shifting global economy? Or will it continue to sink, both literally and figuratively? Number 6. West Virginia. For decades, West Virginia was a state synonymous with coal, a resource that powered the nation and provided steady jobs for generations. But in 2025, West Virginia finds itself in a state of rapid decline as the coal industry continues to collapse, leaving in its wake economic devastation and a population exodus. The decline of coal has been a long time coming, but in 2025, it's reached a tipping point. With the world shifting more aggressively toward renewable energy sources, demand for coal has dropped to historic lows. Coal mines that once employed thousands are now shuttered, and the communities that relied on those jobs are struggling to survive. Towns that were once vibrant with activity now feel like ghost towns, with abandoned businesses and homes lining empty streets. But it's not just the loss of jobs that's hurting West Virginia. The state has long struggled with a lack of economic diversification. In 2025, the state's dependence on coal has left it ill-prepared to attract new industries, meaning that as the coal jobs evaporate, there are few opportunities to replace them. Young people are leaving in droves, seeking better opportunities in other states, leaving behind an aging population that's increasingly reliant on strained healthcare and social services. West Virginia also faces significant public health challenges. The opioid crisis has hit the state harder than almost anywhere else in the country, with addiction rates and overdose deaths continuing to rise in 2025. This public health emergency has further strained the state's already fragile healthcare system, leaving many communities without access to adequate care. So, what's next for West Virginia? Can it find a way to reinvent itself in a post-coal world? Or will it continue to struggle as industries leave and residents flee? The outlook is uncertain, but without significant investment and innovation, West Virginia's future looks bleak. Number 5. New Mexico. New Mexico, a state with stunning natural beauty, rich cultural history, and a unique blend of Native American, Hispanic, and Anglo influences, is now facing a crisis that threatens its future. In 2025, New Mexico ranks among the fastest collapsing states, and the reasons are as complex as the state's history. One of the biggest issues New Mexico faces is its struggling economy. For years, the state has had one of the highest poverty rates in the country, and in 2025, the gap between the wealthy and the poor has only widened. Job opportunities are scarce, especially in rural areas, where industries like agriculture and energy have taken a hit. The state's reliance on federal government jobs and military installations has provided some stability, but it's not enough to sustain a growing population. Another major issue is the lack of infrastructure and investment in education. New Mexico's public school system ranks near the bottom nationally, and in 2025, the situation has worsened. Underfunded schools, high dropout rates, and a lack of resources have made it difficult for the state to cultivate the workforce it needs to attract new industries. As a result, young people with the means to do so are leaving the state in search of better opportunities elsewhere, contributing to a brain drain that's weakening New Mexico's future prospects. New Mexico is also dealing with environmental challenges. As a state that relies heavily on water for both agriculture and daily life, the ongoing drought in the Southwest has hit New Mexico particularly hard. In 2025, water shortages have become a critical issue, affecting everything from farming to tourism. Meanwhile, wildfires are becoming more frequent and more destructive, further straining the state's limited resources. So, where does New Mexico go from here? Can it overcome these challenges and find a way to build a sustainable economy and improve the quality of life for its residents? The road ahead will be difficult, but with the right investments in education, infrastructure, and renewable energy, there's hope that New Mexico can turn things around. Number 4. Mississippi. Mississippi has long struggled with poverty, poor health outcomes, and underfunded public services. In 2025, these issues have reached a breaking point, making Mississippi one of the fastest collapsing states in the country. The Magnolia State is at a critical juncture, and without significant intervention, its future looks increasingly uncertain. Mississippi's economy has always been one of the weakest in the nation, heavily reliant on agriculture, low-wage manufacturing, and federal aid. In 2025, the state continues to grapple with high unemployment rates, low wages, and a lack of economic diversification. For many residents, opportunities for upward mobility are few and far between, and as a result, Mississippi is losing its younger population to states with better job prospects. One of the most pressing issues facing Mississippi is its healthcare system. The state has some of the worst health outcomes in the nation, with high rates of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. In 2025, the healthcare system is on the verge of collapse, with many rural hospitals closing due to lack of funding and an inability to retain healthcare professionals. The state's refusal to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act has left many residents without access to affordable health care, exacerbating the crisis. Education is another area where Mississippi struggles. The state's public schools are among the worst funded in the country, and in 2025, the situation has not improved. High dropout rates, low test scores, and limited access to higher education have left many young Mississippians without the skills they need to compete in a modern economy. Mississippi's challenges are compounded by its resistance to change. Political leaders have been slow to invest in education, healthcare, and infrastructure, and as a result, the state continues to fall behind. Can Mississippi find a way to break the cycle of poverty and underdevelopment, or will it continue to watch its residents leave in search of better opportunities? The future of the Magnolia State hangs in the balance. Number 3. Alaska. Alaska, a state known for its breathtaking wilderness, abundant natural resources, and unique way of life, is now at a crossroads. In 2025, Alaska is facing a series of crises that threaten its economic stability, environment, and population. The last frontier is rapidly becoming one of the fastest collapsing states in the US, and the challenges it faces are unlike those of any other state. One of the biggest issues plaguing Alaska is its over-reliance on oil. For decades, oil revenues have been the backbone of Alaska's economy, funding everything from public services to the state's permanent fund dividend, which provides an annual payout to residents. But in 2025, the global shift toward renewable energy and a decline in oil prices have severely impacted Alaska's economy. With oil production in decline and fewer jobs in the industry, Alaska's budget is stretched thin, leading to cuts in essential services. But the economic challenges don't stop there. Alaska's remote location and harsh climate make it difficult to attract new industries. The state's high cost of living, driven by the difficulty of importing goods and services, has made it increasingly unattractive for both businesses and residents. In 2025, many Alaskans are leaving the state in search of better economic opportunities in the lower 48, contributing to a shrinking population that's making it even harder for the state to sustain itself. Climate change is another existential threat for Alaska. The state is warming at more than twice the rate of the rest of the country, leading to melting glaciers, rising sea levels, and increased coastal erosion. Indigenous communities along Alaska's coast are being forced to relocate as their villages are swallowed by the sea, and the state's infrastructure, built on permafrost, is literally sinking as the ground beneath it thaws. Alaska's future is uncertain. Can it diversify its economy, protect its environment, and retain its population? Or will it continue to struggle as the impacts of climate change and a declining oil industry take their toll on the state? Only time will tell, but the challenges ahead are immense. Number 2. Michigan. Michigan, a state that was once the heart of American industry, innovation, and prosperity, is now facing a crisis of identity and survival. In 2025, Michigan is one of the fastest collapsing states in the US, and the decline is evident in both its urban centers and rural communities. Detroit, once the automotive capital of the world, has been struggling for decades. While there have been efforts to revitalize the city, in 2025, the progress has stalled. The population continues to shrink, with many residents leaving for cities with more job opportunities and better living conditions. Abandoned buildings, empty lots, and crumbling infrastructure are a common sight in Detroit, and the city's tax base is too small to effectively address these issues. But it's not just Detroit. Rural areas of Michigan are also suffering. The state's agricultural and manufacturing sectors have taken a hit, and smaller towns are seeing their populations dwindle as young people leave for better opportunities elsewhere. In 2025, Michigan's economy is struggling to adapt to a post-industrial world, and the state's leaders are grappling with how to attract new industries to replace the jobs that have been lost. Michigan is also facing significant environmental challenges. The state's proximity to the Great Lakes, once a major asset, is now becoming a liability as climate change leads to more extreme weather events and fluctuating water levels. In 2025, flooding and erosion are major concerns for many communities along Michigan's coastlines, threatening both homes and businesses. So, what's next for Michigan? Can it find a way to reinvent itself, or will it continue to watch its population decline and its economy falter? The potential is there. Michigan has a rich history of innovation and industry, but without significant investment in education, infrastructure, and environmental protection, the state's future remains uncertain. Number 1. Oregon. Oregon, a state known for its progressive values, stunning landscapes, and thriving tech industry, is now facing a collapse that few could have predicted. In 2025, Oregon tops the list of the fastest collapsing states in the U.S., and the reasons for its decline are as diverse as its geography. One of the most visible signs of Oregon's struggles is the rising homelessness crisis. In cities like Portland, homelessness has reached unprecedented levels, with thousands of people living in tents and makeshift shelters on city streets. The state's housing market, once relatively affordable, has become one of the most expensive in the country, driven by a combination of high demand, limited supply, and restrictive zoning laws. In 2025, the gap between the state's wealthiest residents and those struggling to make ends meet has never been wider. But it's not just the housing crisis. Oregon is also dealing with the devastating effects of climate change. Wildfires have become a year-round threat, and in 2025, the state is still recovering from some of the worst fires in its history. Entire communities have been destroyed, and the state's iconic forests are shrinking at an alarming rate. The economic toll of these fires is immense, with billions of dollars in damages and the loss of tourism revenue that once came from the state's natural beauty. Oregon's political climate is also contributing to its collapse. The state has long been a beacon of progressive policies, but in 2025, the divide between urban and rural areas has deepened. In rural Oregon, many residents feel left behind by state policies that they see as favoring cities like Portland while neglecting the needs of smaller, more conservative communities. This political tension has led to increasing calls for secession by some rural counties, further destabilizing the state's unity. Oregon's future is uncertain. Can the state address its housing crisis, rebuild from the fires, and bridge its political divides? Or will it continue to struggle as its population grows more divided and its environment more fragile? The challenges are immense, but with the right leadership and policies, Oregon could still turn things around.